Hello friends, I welcome you all in today's lecture. In this lecture, we are going to study second law of thermodynamics. The content of these lectures are: first, we are going to study the first law of thermodynamics and its limitations and why there is a need of second law of thermodynamics. Then we are going to study heat engine, refrigerator and heat pump and its comparison. Kelvin Planck and Clausius statements, these are the second law of thermodynamics statements, and the equivalence between these Kp and Clausius statements. Then we are going to study reversibility and irreversibility and Carnot cycle. First, we will study what is the first law of thermodynamics. The statement of first law of thermodynamics is energy is neither created nor destroyed, but only it gets transformed one form to another form. The first law of thermodynamics for a cyclic heat engine, it tells us the net heat transfer is equal to net work transfer, and mathematically it is written as cyclic integral of dq is equal to cyclic integral of dw. So this is the mathematical form of first law of thermodynamics for a cyclic heat engine. The heat and work are mutually convertible, but since energy can neither be created nor destroyed, the total energy associated with the energy conversion remains the constant. If you take one example for studying the first law of thermodynamics, here we will take one example. In a two-wheeler or in a heat engine or internal combustion engine, the fuel is petrol. Let us assume fuel is a petrol and in which chemical energy is available. This chemical energy is converted into heat energy in the engine. Then that heat energy utilized for moving this piston and crankshaft. So this heat energy gets converted into the mechanical energy, and this mechanical energy finally used for displacement of vehicle from one place to another place. So here you can observe there is a change in energy from one form to another form. Whether reverse is possible, there is no petrol in the tank, and if people starts applying the first law in the reverse directions, and let us see what happens. As there is no petrol in the vehicle, then we push that vehicle from one place to other place. Means this displacement of vehicle gets converted into the mechanical energy. Let us assume that piston is moving up and down because of displacement of vehicle. Then heat energy will be developed because of the friction between the piston and cylinder. Whether that heat energy finally gets converted into the chemical energy and then it gets converted into the petrol. Whether because of the pushing or displacement of vehicle, whether we are getting the petrol inside the petrol tank. And it is observed by doing this experiment, it is not possible. Then there it comes, the limitations of the first law of thermodynamics. In this case, first law is not applied in both the directions. It is true in one direction and not possible in reverse direction. And from this example, we came to know that first law not gives the directions of the process, and which is the limitations of first law of thermodynamics, that we will see in the upcoming slides. Then what is the perpetual motion machine of a first kind? First, we will see the statement of this perpetual motion machine of a first kind. There can be no machine which would continuously supply mechanical work without some form of energy disappearing simultaneously. Means, if you look at this diagram, in this diagram, if heat supply is a zero, still this engine gives continuously W amount of work. That this is the statement of first perpetual motion machine of a first kind. Whether such machines are possible, such fictitious machine is called as perpetual motion machine of first kind, or in brief it is called as PMM1. Is a PMM1, that is perpetual motion machine of a first kind, is a possible? We have studied for any cyclic heat engine, net heat transfer dQ is equal to net work transfer W. In the first example, net heat transfer is a 0. So left hand side of this equation you put it 0, we are getting dW, cyclic integral dW is 0, that is W net is a 0. So from the first law we can prove that when the input heat is a 0, input energy is a 0, output work done is also 0. Therefore, we conclude that perpetual motion machine of a first kind is an impossible machine. So the efficiency of perpetual motion machine is how much? Is it 100%? So without any work done, if we calculate, efficiency is equal to W upon Q, W divided by 0. So we cannot find out the efficiency of perpetual motion machine of a first kind. So it is undefined. The converse of perpetual motion machine of first kind is what? We are providing continuously work to the machine, and there is no heat transfer. Q is a 0. We are only providing work to the machines. Whether such thing is also possible? Such thing is also not possible, because in one example we can see that if this is the example, compression of a gas. This is a piston and cylinder arrangement. Here W amount of work or force is provided. Inside it is a gas. We cannot compress this gas, or if you compress this gas continuously, whether you will observe any heat transfer, and it is assumed that Q is a 0. Such a process is not possible. You cannot compress the gas at infinitely without any heat transfer. So converse of PMM1 is also impossible. What are the limitations? Just one limitations earlier we have seen. Another limitations we will see. Whether the first law of thermodynamics does not provide answers to the following questions. Which are these questions? Is a particular process or reaction is feasible? Whether some reactions are possible or not. The answer of these questions, first law does not tells. To what extent does the process or reactions proceed? Its answer also first law does not tells. Is a complete conversion of internal energy into work is possible? These are the few questions. Its answers first law does not gives. And we conclude with this. The first law does not define the efficiency of the process and directions of the process in which it can occur. Therefore, we can conclude that first law is a necessary condition, but it is not a sufficient condition to talk detail about the process. After that, we are going to study the prerequisite to understand the thermal energy reservoir, to understand the second law of thermodynamics, and for which we need thermal energy reservoir. Then what is meant by source and sink? So first we will define thermal energy reservoir, or we will study thermal energy reservoir. A thermal energy reservoir is defined as a large body of infinite heat capacity which is capable of absorbing or rejecting as unlimited quantity of heat without suffering appreciable changes in its thermodynamic coordinates, for example temperature. Okay, so a thermal energy reservoir is some system from which we can take any quantity of heat or give any quantity of heat to the system, its temperature is unchanged, then such system we call it as a thermal energy reservoir. For example, here we can have sun, one example. From sun continuously we are getting the heat, okay, still its thermodynamic coordinates like a temperature is a constant. Similarly, we are rejecting heat into the atmosphere by industrial heat rejection, like a thermal power plant from which heat is rejected into the atmosphere, or automobile engines from which heat is rejected into the atmosphere. Still the temperature of atmosphere is a constant, then we assume that the atmosphere is a thermal energy reservoir. These thermal energy reservoirs are classified depending upon whether it is a heat is absorbing device or a heat is rejecting device. So the first type of a thermal reservoir, thermal energy reservoir, is called as a heat source. Is called as a heat source. Its definition is a thermal energy reservoir from which heat Q1 is transferred to the system operating in a heat engine cycle is called as a source. Just now we have defined source is the system which continuously give heat or reject heat into the surrounding, still its temperature is unchanged or remains constant, is called as a source. The one example to understand the source is the sun. Sun continuously rejects heat, still its temperature is a constant, then it is called as a source of heat. This is a external source of heat. Internal source of heat, if you take the example, in thermal power plant, boiler, in automobiles engine is a source of heat. In foundry, the furnace is a source of heat. So these are the source of heat and few examples we have seen. Then what is meant by heat sink? Its definition is a thermal energy reservoir to which heat Q2 is rejected from the system operating in a heat engine cycle is called as sink. The example of sinks are atmosphere, river water, sea water, and lake. These are the few examples, okay, in which if you add continuously heat, its temperature remains constant, and these are called as a heat sink. Then we will define what is meant by heat engine. Heat engine is a device which converts heat energy into the mechanical energy or mechanical work. Okay. So heat engine is the device which converts heat energy into mechanical energy. If you see some examples of heat engine, one best example is the thermal power plant, in which inside the boiler the combustion of fuel takes place, and that heat is utilized to convert water into vapor, and that vapor is at a high pressure and high temperature. That high pressure, high temperature vapor or steam strikes the turbine, and where turbine starts rotating, strikes the turbine, and where turbine starts rotating. So heat energy inside the steam is utilized to rotate the turbine, rotate the turbine. So in the thermal power plant, so this is the example in which heat energy is utilized to rotate the turbine. Second example is automobile engine, in which combustion of fuel takes place inside piston and cylinder arrangement, and that piston is pushed or displaced, and here this heat energy inside the combustion chamber gets converted into the mechanical energy. These are the few examples from which we can understand the what is meant by heat engine. The work of engineer is to improve the performance of heat engine. To find out the performance of heat engine, we need to draw the block diagram of this heat engine, and we need to understand what is the input and output of the heat engine, and depending upon that we can improve the performance of engine. How to improve that we will study. Before that, first we will study what is the block diagram of a heat engine. So the block diagram of heat engine, in which we can draw, one is the source and another is the sink. If you compare this heat engine with one example, let us take an automobile two-wheeler engine, in which the source where the combustion of a fuel or petrol takes place. Then that source temperature, if the heat is generated, assume the heat is generated at a T1 temperature, that heat is given to this heat engine. That heat engine provides or generates W amount of work, and remaining amount of heat is rejected into the surrounding or a atmosphere. Let us consider at a temperature T1, Q1 amount of heat is produced inside the heat engine or a engine. Then out of that Q1, some amount of energy is utilized to do the work, and remaining is rejected into the atmosphere. So whenever we call heat engine, at that time in front of you this block diagram should come. Okay. So heat engine means what? Heat engine where there is a source at a T1 temperature, sink or surrounding at a T2 temperature. For a heat engine, there will be heat absorption and heat rejections, and there will be work output. From this block diagram, you can understand that input to this heat engine is a Q1, output, useful output from this engine is a W. So performance of heat engine, we indicate it as a efficiency. The definition of efficiency is output divided by input. Output is a W, useful output is a W, and input given it to this engine is a Q1. So the performance is indicated by efficiency. So efficiency is W divided by Q1. W divided by Q1. So this Q1 we can write, or sorry, this W we can write in terms of heat transfer like this. If this is the engine, for this engine Q1 is the input, W is the output, and Q2 is the heat rejected. So from first law we can apply energy coming into the system is equal to energy leaving the system, and here system is this, system is the engine. Okay, for this engine energy coming into the system is a Q1 and energy leaving the systems are W plus Q2. So from this we can write W is equal to Q1 minus Q2. So here W is the difference of heat coming into the system and heat leaving the system. This is called as a net work. So in place of W, now I can write Q1 minus Q2. So here now we can write efficiency is equal to W by Q1, and W just now we have defined W is a Q1 minus Q2 divided by Q2. Divided by Q1. So this is 1 minus Q2 by Q1 is the efficiency of a efficiency of a heat engine from the first law of thermodynamics. From the first law of thermodynamics. So efficiency, here we can write efficiency is W divided by Q1. This is from the definition of efficiency. Efficiency is equal to 1 minus Q2 by Q1, and this we have derived from the first law of thermodynamics. These are the two formulas of efficiency that we have derived from the definition of efficiency and the first law of thermodynamics. This heat engine works on the Carnot cycle. So Carnot cycle, in which there are 4 processes, and these processes are written here. So first process 1 to 2 is a isentropic expansion. Then 2 to 3 is the isothermal heat rejection. 3 to 4 is the isentropic compression, and 4 to 1 is the isothermal heat addition or heat supply. So during 4 to 1 process, Q1 amount of heat is supplied, and 2 to 3 process in which Q2 amount of heat is rejected. This example of heat engine we have taken for the thermal power plant. So during 1 to 2 process, WT amount of work is produced. During 3 to 4 process, WC amount of work is given for the compression. If you see left hand side, 1 to 2 is the isentropic compression in the turbine. Through this turbine you will get WT amount of work. 2 to 3 process, this is the condenser which will reject Q2 amount of heat into the atmosphere. 3 to 4 is the compression process in the compressor, in which the pressure of working substance is increased from P2 to P1 or condenser pressure to the boiler pressure, and 4 to 1 process in which heat addition takes place. Here I want to share that heat engine works on the Carnot cycle. This Carnot cycle works clockwise. When Carnot cycle works clockwise, then this cycle is called as a work producing cycle. When Carnot cycle works anti-clockwise, then it called as a work consuming cycle. This cycle, when this is the ideal cycle in which all the four processes are reversible processes. What is meant by reversible processes? That we will see in upcoming slides. But in the Carnot cycle, all the four processes are reversible processes. So Carnot cycle is called as a reversible cycle. As the losses are zero in this cycle, the performance or efficiency of this cycle is very high. Or it is the maximum efficiency or maximum performance will be given by this cycle. In this cycle, or here you just remember, heat engine works on the Carnot cycle. Carnot cycle in which all the processes are reversible. As all the processes are reversible, losses are zero. As the losses are zero, efficiency is a maximum. Okay, so you just remember, heat engine works on the Carnot cycle in which all the processes are reversible, so losses are zero and efficiency is a maximum. This is just we have seen how to find out the performance of such heat engines. Okay, so in this heat engine, the green colored here is the output, Q1 is the input. Then we can write from the definition of heat engine. So efficiency of a heat engine, we can write output divided by input. Output is a W divided by Q1, and W is nothing but Q1 minus Q2, and then we can replace W as a Q1 minus Q2. So we are getting efficiency is Q1 minus Q2 upon Q1. Then if you separate the terms on the numerator, we are getting 1 minus Q2 by Q1 is the efficiency of first law of thermodynamics. So this equation gives or derived from the definition of efficiency. This equation is defined from the first law of thermodynamics. Now, according to the Kelvin scale, the ratio of heat transfers R is equal to ratio of temperature. This is called as a Kelvin scale or absolute thermodynamic temperature scale. From the Kelvin scale or absolute thermodynamic temperature scale, we can write Q2 by Q1 is equal to T2 by T1. In these equations, all temperatures, that is T1 and T2, are in Kelvin. Remember this while solving the problem. So, from equation, if you write the number equation 1, equation 2, and if you substitute equations 3 in equation 2, we are getting finally efficiency formula from the second law as 1 minus T2 by T1, and from this equation it is clear that efficiency is a function of high temperature and low temperature where engine is operating. Okay. So according to the Carnot theorem, efficiency is only functions of its high temperature and its low temperature. Okay. Here you need to remember, while calculating efficiency, always take temperature in Kelvin. Okay. The condition here, the engine or the cycle on which that engine works, then it should be reversible cycle or reversible engine. Then only you can use these equations for calculating its thermal efficiency. In these equations, these temperatures are in Kelvin. These equations only used for reversible heat engine or Carnot engine. You cannot use this formula for any other engine, or like irreversible or real engine. You cannot use this formula for calculating the efficiency. This efficiency formula in terms of temperature only used for Carnot engine and reversible heat engine. Here one MCQ is asked, a Carnot engine. Now here it is mentioned it is a Carnot engine. Works between 600 Kelvin and 300 Kelvin. What is its efficiency? 4 options were given. So we have 3 formulas of efficiency. One is W upon Q1. Another is 1 minus Q2 by Q1. And third is 1 minus T2 by T1. Here you can use this third formula because it is a Carnot engine. Okay. And as W and Q are not given, so we cannot use the first 2 formulas. So I will use the third formula, which gives T2 is a 300, T1 is a 600. So this gives 0.5. So that is a 50% efficiency. In percentage, it is a 50% efficiency. If these temperatures, if you create one more questions here, if heat engine works between 627 degrees Celsius and 27 degrees Celsius temperature range, that is a T1 is 627 and T2 is a 27 degrees Celsius, then what is the efficiency? In that case, again we can use the efficiency formula 1 minus T2 by T1. Many students take this temperature directly 27 and 627 and they will get some efficiency. This is the wrong method. You cannot use this temperature in degrees Celsius. Then we need to add or take these temperatures are in Kelvin. So here you need to add 273 and 273. Then whatever efficiency we will get, that is the correct answer. Okay. So while calculating efficiency of a Carnot engine, always take these temperatures in Kelvin. In Kelvin, not in degrees Celsius or other units. How to improve the efficiency of a heat engine? How to improve the efficiency of heat engine? We have few options. Efficiency of heat engine is 1 minus T2 by T1. Here the ultimate aim is to improve the efficiency left hand side. It has 2 options. Right hand side, we need to increase this bracket, green colored bracket. To increase this green colored bracket, we have few options here. This T2 by T1 term, we have to keep decreasing. then and then only 1 minus T2 by T1, that is a green colored bracket of right hand side, it will increase and efficiency it will increase. To reduce the T2 by T1, you need to reduce the T2 and increase the T1. Okay, so by decreasing T2 and increasing T1, the efficiency increases. So three options are there. First, reduce the T1, reduce the T2. Second option, increase the T1, or third options, reduce T2 and increase T1. So by these three methods, you can increase the efficiency. You can increase the efficiency. And there will be the great improvement in efficiency if you decrease T2 and increase T1 simultaneously. So what the efficiency of a Carnot engine can be increased by decreasing lower temperature, by increasing lower temperature, and both the options. Okay, so efficiency can be increased with the help of these three options. Then what is the next questions? Which temperature increase or decrease of a Carnot engine have great improvement in efficiency of engine? By increasing lower temperature, by decreasing lower temperature, by increasing higher temperature, by decreasing higher temperature. Just now we have seen the three options. By increasing lower temperature, this is not correct, we cannot increase. By decreasing higher temperature, this is not also true. So option B and C both are correct, but here what is asked? Great improvement in efficiency. Okay, for example, efficiency formula is 1 minus T2 by T1. Let us take T2 as a 300 Kelvin and T1 as a 600 Kelvin. My question is, if you reduce T2 by 10 degrees Celsius, one option. Second option, you can increase T1 by 10 degrees Celsius. The question is, by decreasing T2 by 10 degrees Celsius or increasing T1 by 10 degrees Celsius, whether both options give the same efficiency, or out of these two options, one option will give you more improvement efficiency than the other option. Okay, so which give you the correct answer, whether by decreasing lower temperature will be increase more efficiency, or by increasing the higher temperature will give you the more efficiency. To discuss this problem, we have drawn this graph by taking case 1 and case 2. Case 1, in which T2 is decreased by 10 degrees Celsius in 5 readings, and by keeping a T1 constant. Okay, we are decreasing this T2, keeping T1 constant. Then if you look at the last column, efficiency is increasing. This is the case 1. Case 2, in which T2 kept constant and T1 is increased. Then again we have observed that there is a improvement in the efficiency, or efficiency is increased. Now we have to compare the both cases. If you compare the both cases, then you can observe that the case 1, in which there will be more improvement in efficiency than the case 2. Okay, then what is the case 1? Decreasing lower temperature has great improvement in efficiency as compared to increasing the higher temperature. Okay, so this blue colored graph tells us that decreasing T2 will give you the more improvement in efficiency as compared to increasing the higher temperature. So the conclusion is by lowering the lower temperature have great improvement in efficiency than increasing the higher temperature. How to prove it mathematically? You can, this is a earlier slide in which we have taken it in the Excel sheet, and by calculating the graph or drawing the graph you can conclude it that. But you can prove it mathematically by differentiating these efficiency equations with respect to T2 and with respect to T1 by keeping other variable constant, like first case in which efficiency is equation differentiated with respect to T1 by with respect to T2 by keeping T1 constant, and we are getting equation 1 on right hand side is equal to minus 1 upon T1, then it is multiplied and divide it by T1. So we are getting finally this equation. This arrangement is we did it for simplifying or comparing equation 1 and 2. So equation 1 right hand side minus T1 upon T1 square. Second, if you differentiate efficiency equation with respect to T1 by keeping T2 constant, we are getting T2 upon T1 square. And if you compare equation 1 and 2, its denominator is a T1 square, denominator is constant, and then you compare the numerator. Numerator for first equation is a T1, second equation is a T2. So if you compare the slope of this curve, efficiency versus temperature, then the first equation gives you the more slope, that is more change in the efficiency for the same change in the x-axis, that is a temperature. Okay, so that is a T1 and T2. For the same changes in the temperature on x-axis, there will be more improvement efficiency in the y-axis, and that you can see in the first case. By lowering the lower temperature has great improvement in efficiency, and if you compare the slopes, so first case slope is more than the second case. After heat engine, we are going to study the refrigerator. Why we are studying this? Because we have to understand the second law of thermodynamics. The things which require to understand the second law of thermodynamics, those are heat engine, refrigerator and heat pump. After studying this, we are going to study the next part, that is second law of thermodynamics. Now, what is meant by refrigerator? Its definition: refrigeration is defined as the process of achieving and maintaining a temperature below that of the surrounding. So here one example is taken, air conditioning. Okay, air conditioning in which the room temperature is maintained below that of the surrounding. So this air conditioning we call it as a refrigerator or refrigeration system. Okay, again this refrigeration system, if you draw its block diagram, okay, here T2 is the temperature that we have to maintain below that of the surrounding temperature. So this is my requirement, maintaining temperature T2 below that of the surrounding is the requirement, and with this requirement this refrigerator is defined. Here T1 is the atmospheric temperature at which Q1 amount of heat is rejected from this condenser. And for removing this heat from the some closed space like a room or a refrigerator inside space, for removing heat from this room, we need to provide some work through electricity or through compressor. Okay, so this is the block diagram of a refrigerator, in which the green color box is the requirement. The amount of heat removed from this closed space is nothing but the refrigerating effect, or cooling effect, which is useful output. For getting this useful output, this W amount of work is provided. Generally it is provided to the compressor. Okay, so compressor does work on the refrigerant, and that work is W. Okay, this refrigerator works on the reversed Carnot cycle. In the earlier we have discussed as a Carnot cycle is a reversible cycle. So that can work as a clockwise, also it can work as a clockwise and anti-clockwise. When Carnot cycle work clockwise, in that cycle we are getting the work output. When it is anti-clockwise, we need to give work to the cycle. So this cycle consumes the works to transfer heat from low temperature body to high temperature body. Okay, so if you see the working, 1 to 2 is the expansion in the throttle wall, 2 to 3 where heat is absorbed, QA amount of heat is absorbed or Q2 amount of heat is absorbed. Condenser rejects Q1 amount of heat into the atmosphere, and here we need to provide some compressor work. WC amount of work is provided to the compressor. In this cycle, if you draw here one line, then this side piping is under high pressure zone and below piping is under low pressure zone. Okay, so condenser, there is a one condenser pressure 4 to 1, and here it is 2 to 3, it is a evaporator pressure. This is a low pressure zone and this is the high pressure zone. So which are the 4 processes in this reverse Carnot cycle? 1 to 2 is the isentropic expansion in throttle wall. 3 to 4 is the isentropic compression in the compressor. 2 to 3 and 4 to 1 are the isothermal heat absorption and heat rejection in the evaporator and condenser. From this diagram, you can understand that the block diagram of the refrigerator is similar to the heat engine, but it is operating in the reverse directions. Okay, so here T1 is the atmospheric temperature. Okay, T2 is the temperature that we have to maintain. Q2 is the output. This is called as a refrigerating effect or cooling effect, and W is the work input. Again, here when you calculate the performance, if you take this is the refrigerator for which W amount of work is given, and this is the Q2, and this here it is the Q1. When you calculate output divided by input, so output generally it is a Q2 divided by W. In maximum case, this outputs is generally greater than this output generally greater than 0, greater than in maximum cases. In some cases again it is less than 0, but maximum times this output, okay, this performance is greater than 0, okay. But when we take performance or efficiency, we observe that this efficiency always lies less than 1, and here, sorry, here in case of refrigerator, this performance is maximum times greater than 1. The concept of efficiency lies between 0 to 1. The concept of performance of refrigerator is lies greater than 1. To avoid the confusion between efficiency and the performance of refrigerator, here another term is given, that is a coefficient of performance for the refrigerator. Thing is that its values maximum times lies above 1. So to avoid the conflicts between the performance of refrigerator and efficiency of heat engine, the another name is given coefficient of performance for the refrigerator. The coefficient of performance for the refrigerator is Q2 upon W. Okay, Q2 upon W. So this is a Q2, here it is the W, and this is the Q1. So COP is Q2 divided by W. But when we apply the energy coming into the system, energy in and energy leaving the system, this first law when we apply, we are getting Q2 plus W is equal to Q1 and W is equal to Q1 minus Q2. When you substitute here, Q2 upon Q1 minus Q2 is the COP of the refrigerator formula. Okay. Then according to the Kelvin scale, you can replace COP of a refrigerator as T2 upon T1 minus T2. This is called as a Carnot COP. This is also called as a Carnot COP. This is the maximum value of a COP. Carnot COP, when you calculate in terms of temperature, then by using temperature formula, which gives you the maximum COP, the COP of a real engine, a real refrigerator is never greater than COP of a Carnot. Okay, so Carnot COP is highest because all the processes are reversible. As all the processes are reversible, this refrigerator gives you the maximum COP. So Carnot COP is the maximum COP for the refrigerator. Here one MCQ is there. A Carnot cycle refrigerator, again here it is mentioned Carnot cycle, operates between 250 Kelvin and 300 Kelvin. Its coefficient of performance is. So COP Carnot is, what is the formula? T2 divided by T1 minus T2. So T2 is the lower temperature, T1 is the higher temperature. So T2 is a 250 Kelvin, T1 is a 300 Kelvin. Substitute it, 250 divided by 300 minus 250, it becomes 5. 250 divided by 50, so answer is 5. Heat pump, okay. Heat pump works similar to the refrigerator, but its requirement is higher temperature. In the refrigerator, requirement is a lower temperature. In the heat pump, requirement is the higher temperature, temperature greater than atmospheric. So its definition, heat pump is defined as the process of achieving and maintaining temperature above that of the surrounding. Above that of the surrounding. This is the heat pump. In this case, what is the input and output? The amount of heat given to the heating the room is the output. In cold countries where temperature is below 0 degrees Celsius, and if they want to maintain the temperature about 20 or 15 degrees Celsius or 24 degrees Celsius, in that case, the heat is absorbed from the surrounding by heat pump, from the atmosphere by the heat pump, and that heat is given to the room for maintaining its temperature above that of the atmosphere. Above that of the atmosphere. Above that of the atmospheric. So here the amount of heat given to the heat pump is a very important. So Q1 amount of heat is given to the heat pump. Q2 amount of heat is absorbed from the atmosphere or surrounding. For doing so, for transferring heat from low temperature to the high temperature, W amount of work is required. This is the block diagram of the heat pump. Block diagram of the heat pump. It's this heat pump again works on the reverse Carnot cycle. Okay. Then how to calculate the output of this heat pump, or how to find out the performance of this heat pump? Again, performance is output divided by input. What is the output? The heat given to the room or closed space, that is Q1 is the output. What is the input? W is the input. So Q1 upon W is the COP of the heat pump. Then we can derive this from the first law. W is a Q1 minus Q2. You substitute here. So COP of a heat pump is Q1 upon Q1 minus Q2. From Kelvin scale, you can write Q1 upon Q1 minus Q2 is T1 upon T1 minus T2. Then COP of heat pump formula is T1 upon T1 minus T2. Okay. This is the COP of the heat pump. If you take one here equation, MCQ, what is it? The COP of a refrigerator working as a heat pump is given by. COP of a refrigerator working as a heat pump is given by. So they have given 4 options. We know the COP of a refrigerator is T2 upon T1 minus T2. Okay. And COP of heat pump is T1 upon T1 minus T2. If you look at the options, fourth option is not correct, because formula right hand side of both the COP formula is a different. Denominator is the same, but numerator is a different. From this diagram, one thing is clear, that if you compare, denominator of both the formulas is same, numerator is different. So from the numerator, it is clear that COP of a heat pump is greater than COP of a refrigerator. Why? Because T1 is greater than T2. T1 is greater than T2. Whether any option is there where COP of a heat pump is greater than COP of refrigerator. So option A and B, in which the COP of a heat pump is greater than COP of a refrigerator. Then you can take, out of these two, one option you can take. Let us take option B. COP of a heat pump is equal to COP of a refrigerator plus 1. So what is the COP of refrigerator? T2 upon T1 minus T2 plus 1. Then T2 plus T1 minus T2 divided by T1 minus T2. T2 get cancelled. So COP of a heat pump is T1 upon T1 minus T2, and this formula we are getting finally when we use this equation. So option B is correct. COP of a heat pump is greater than COP of a refrigerator by an amount 1. Okay, so option B is correct. If you compare the working of the heat engine, refrigerator and the heat pump, heat pump and heat engine operates above the atmospheric temperature. This red color line is the atmospheric temperature. So heat pump and heat engine, its output we are getting above its atmospheric temperature, and the refrigerator which works below the atmospheric, or its requirement is below the atmospheric temperature. If you see the formulas, efficiency of heat engine is 1 minus T2 by T1. COP of a heat pump is T1 upon T1 minus T2. COP of the refrigerator is T2 upon T1 minus T2. Green colored are the output of the engine, refrigerator and the heat pump. So how to remember? In a heat pump, T1 is the requirement, so numerator you take the T1. In the refrigerator, T2 is the requirement, so in the numerator you take the T2. So like this you need to remember the formulas of the heat pump, refrigerator and the engine. Here comparison, as Carnot engine is a reversible, you can operate it as a heat engine, refrigerator or a heat pump. Here if heat engine is operated as a refrigerator, then can you calculate the comparison between the efficiency and the COP of the refrigerator? Yes, we can calculate. We know the formula of efficiency, 1 minus T2 by T1. So from this equation you can write T2 by T1 as 1 minus efficiency. Mark this as equation 1. COP of refrigerator is T2 upon T1 minus T2. You can rearrange, divide right hand side by T2 to the numerator and denominator, we are getting 1 upon T1 minus T2 minus 1. Then T1 upon T2 is T1 upon T2 minus 1 is equal to 1 upon COP. 1 upon COP. Then T1 upon T2 is equal to 1 upon COP plus 1. Then T2 by T1 is equal to COP upon 1 plus COP. If you compare equation 1 and 2, its left hand side is the same, T2 by T1. Then you can equate the right hand side. When you equate the right hand side, we are getting 1 minus efficiency is equal to COP of refrigerator divided by 1 plus COP of a refrigerator. Take this efficiency to the right hand side, then efficiency is equal to 1 plus COP minus COP divided by 1 plus COP. When you cancel out all the terms, we are getting efficiency is equal to 1 upon 1 plus COP. Okay, 1 upon 1 plus COP. Also, COP of refrigerator is equal to 1 upon efficiency minus 1. Okay, you need to remember these equations while solving some MCQ. COP is 1 minus efficiency upon efficiency. Efficiency is 1 upon 1 plus COP. T2 by T1 is 1 minus efficiency. T2 by T1 is a COP upon 1 plus COP. And last equation, COP of a heat pump is equal to COP of a refrigerator plus 1. Based on these equations, we have few examples here. A reverse Carnot cycle working as a heat pump has a COP 7. What is the ratio of minimum to maximum absolute temperature? Now this is a heat pump is given. This is the heat pump in which T1, this is a W input, here it is the T2, so it absorbs Q2, rejects Q1. This is the heat pump, okay. It's a COP is given 7, COP is a 7, COP equal to 7. What is asked? Minimum to maximum temperature ratio is asked. How to calculate? We know the formula of the COP. COP is equal to T1 upon T1 minus T2. So this we can write 1 divided by 1 minus T2 by T1, which is equal to 7, So 1 minus T2 by T1 is equal to 1 upon 7. So this can be written as, now I will write blue color, T2 by T1 equal to 1 minus 1 upon 7. So this can be written as 6 by 7. So this can be 6 by 7. So option B is correct. This is how we can solve the T2 by, we can calculate T minimum by T maximum. So we will stop here. In the next lecture, we will see the second law of thermodynamics statements, equivalence between Clausius and Kelvin-Planck statement, and few problems on the second law of thermodynamics. So thank you very much for attending this lecture or watching this video. Thank you.